when I was younger, I had a terrible fear of dogs. I mean, not a little bit scared, but I was really, really scared of dogs. But we had a dog, so it wasn't like I wasn't used to dogs. And I remember vividly, my mom would always say to me, whenever I saw the dog charging at me, the dog is just really happy to see you. But I could never really see that. All I saw was this really angry dog, and my brain would go straight into panic without even any extensive sort of cognitive activity. And I would just really be scared. But my mom could not really understand that, right? A lot of the world today feels like that, where we've got completely different perspectives, even though we're looking at different things. So you've got the people over there who see the hungry dog, the people who see the happy dog, the people who don't see any type of dog. And over time, what happens is we start to find the people who think like us. So we go searching for the people who see the angry dog, the people who see the happy dog, depending on what our perspectives are. See, this in-group affinity itself is not the problem. It's that when we stay too long in those groups, they become the basis of our social categorizations, our tolerances, and ultimately the way that we see the world. And sometimes the conversation starts from, can you see a happy dog or do you see an angry dog, to, okay, who deserves more rights? The people who see the angry dog or the people who see the happy dog or the people who don't see a dog at all? And so we go on, stuck in this endless cycle of debate that we're actually unable to really get to a common ground. The world is more diverse than it's ever been. All at once, we're living across generations, baby boomers, millennials, Generation X, Y. At the same time, people who come from different backgrounds, ethnicities, racial groups, sexual orientations, and so on. But diversity becomes problematic without inclusion. So the challenge for leadership right now is not just to have these strong visions and to be able to communicate them. It's also to be able to carry everybody along in that journey. But how do you do that when you as a leader have your own feelings, your thoughts, your beliefs, your perspectives? How do you practice inclusive leadership when you've got your own point of view? Well, here are 3 things that might help. 1, listen. A lot of people ask me in my role as a diversity and inclusion coach, what is the one thing I can do? I don't know what to do. The one thing anybody can do is listen. Because part of that equality piece is also being able to say, hey, I'm in pain. I'm not comfortable. So when people express injustice or they express their experiences, what we need to do is listen to them. Because sometimes the only evidence of exclusion is the pain of the excluded. We're still mentally used to categorizing exclusion with violence, probably because of the history around slave trade, the Holocaust. But sometimes exclusion is so subtle because it takes a microsecond for our brain to determine whether someone is an other or whether they are one of us. It doesn't always happen with an elaborate, set of activities. But what we can do is to really listen to the voices of the people around us who are saying, I just don't feel comfortable. It's okay to listen. And not just to listen from a point of response or a place of judgment, but to listen to genuinely understand their perspective, to understand their point of views and their experiences. Inclusive leadership begins with listening. You cannot include people you can't hear. Also, think about what you think to be ideal. This is really important because a lot of our idealism is centered around our frames of reference, what we think and how we see the world. Homophily is a term that was coined in the 1950s by sociologists who were trying to really put a frame around our affinity for the things that remind us most of ourselves, and how as human beings we have the tendency to seek the things that reinforce our belief systems rather than challenge them. And a lot of us are quite homophilic in the way we think. So we like the things that remind us of ourselves. Add that with our frames of reference that are so strictly framed and designed by our experiences, what our parents said, what our friends think, the communities we live in. We see the world not necessarily as it is, but through the lens of what we think it is. And so we take all of these homophilic tendencies into the decisions we make day in and day out. Who's beautiful? Who deserves affection? Who deserves love? What's desirable? What's acceptable? What is disgusting? What is uncomfortable? And though your frame of reference may be relevant to you, sometimes it's not the only truth. I don't know if you've been, to do a high test, but I've certainly done a number of them over the years. And when the opticians keep changing the lenses, and you kind of go, no, that one doesn't work. Oh, no, that doesn't work. Oh, yeah, that one works. And then you find the perfect lens for you, and it's like, yes, things are really clear. Those lenses that weren't perfect for you are absolutely perfect for other people. So sometimes if you're finding that you're getting really polarized in the way you're seeing the world, it's probably time for you to step out and try a different lens. And this is really important because there is a darker side to polarization. So we know the social exclusion and all of that, but also researchers have found that actually the extreme effect of racism is that it affects how our brain empathizes. So our empathy levels are broadly determined sometimes by the social categorizations of the people that we are watching being victimized. So actually, the more polarized you become, the less able to see humans in their truest forms you become. Isn't it interesting? The people that you argue with on social media, they have children too. They like their dogs. They have relatives. They hit Sunday roast with their grandparents every day. When you really think about it, what connects us as human beings is so much bigger than the difference in opinion, than the difference in perspectives. We all love our families. We all want the same thing broadly out of life. Just because we look different, or we love different, or we think different, does not take away the very essence of our humanity. But when we polarize ourselves so clearly, we start to see the individual through the lens of the collective. And finally, I would say create your own inclusion serendipity. Find those amazing life-changing experiences by developing different cultural lenses. And one of the easiest ways you can do this is through social media. I love social media, right? But it's also a self-reinforcing bubble. If you follow the same people, you see the same things, the algorithms are always watching what you did yesterday so that they can do more of it today. So you run the risk of seeing the same news, hearing the same voices, getting the same perspectives. But you can flip that around. You can follow people from different parts of the world with different experiences. So I was doing a little research around political affinity and culture groups a couple of months ago. And to kind of really understand different political perspectives, I found myself following some rather interesting social media accounts. And I did not agree with most of the things that were being said, but at least I understood. And sometimes the first step to inclusion is to understand. So be willing to listen and understand that sometimes your perspectives are not the only truth. And then be curious and go out and create these new experiences. Find people from different cultures, connect with them on a really human level. And that inclusive leadership will start to come to you a little bit more naturally. Now I'll say this as I close. Werner Myers once said, diversity is being invited to the party. Inclusion is being asked to dance. And a lot of people have actually said belonging is being able to dance however you want. Do whatever you want without anyone judging you. The world is becoming increasingly polarized. Every day we're being forced to choose a side. But sometimes, just sometimes, it's okay to simply be human. Thank you.